Thank you all so much for joining and for your interest in our Untitled Artist Development cohort at Theater in the Mill. I'm Isa. I'm the senior producer at Theater in the Mill. I started back in March and have been having a great time since I moved to Bradford specifically for this role. So I'm also learning a lot about the city. It's a really exciting time to be here. And that's actually a little bit about what our provocation is about. This is our second Untitled program. Our first cohort is currently running. And they are working through the provocation in the margins. We'll talk more about what the provocation is for this cohort and how this whole thing works as we go through today's session. So this is an overview about what we'll be talking about today. I'll talk a little bit about Theater in the Mill, talk a little bit about the program, the provocation, how the application is set up, how we do our selection process, and then there'll be some time at the end for Q&A. So first of all, what is Theater in the Mill? If you don't know, if you're not from Bradford, if you don't know about the theater, it's been around for about 50 years. It's our 50th anniversary next year. Has a long history of doing avant-garde, artist development, new writing, political theater, all sorts of things like that. We are on the University of Bradford's campus. We are part of the University of Bradford. So when it comes to um, invoicing and contracting for the funding that goes through the university and not just through us. And yeah, so we have a great audience of the students, the staff here, our local community, other artists and arts organizations around Bradford, and a lot of artists in the north have started their careers at Theater in the Mill, which is something that we're just honored to be a part of those stories. This is our recently rewritten value statement. It's the wordiest slide in this whole presentation. So as I said, I'm sending a recording out. So if you really want to read it, you can take a look at it there and read through it and stuff. It's a good overview of how we position ourselves and how we are approaching all of our new programming and artist development work. Theater in the Mill is made up of 3 people at the moment. So there's our artistic director, Dr. Sharina Aslam, myself, senior producer, and then also Claire Kearns is our finance and admin coordinator. We are currently recruiting for our full-time technician role, and they will be in post ahead of the beginning of your cohort. So we'll also have our full-time technician available. So, what is Untitled? Untitled, it focuses on giving artists time, space, resources, support, and funding to critically explore an idea in response to a provocation. So, this whole idea of this program is really to create a space and create an opportunity for artists to really dig into an idea. And it's all about that. It's not about, having a polished outcome or, a final product by the end of it. This is really looking at and breaking down your process, your practice, your methodology when you approach that early stages of a project, of an idea, of a work. So part of that is £1,000 of funding. So this is given as a lump sum, and it's sort of to help fund you through the process, through, if you are doing any traveling or you want to hire anybody or you want to have any technology or really whatever, you get the money. We don't really track what you spend it on. We hand it over to you. You invoice us for it at the beginning of the program, and you have it for the duration. Everyone in the program gets up to 3 days in the Theater of the Mill studio or the gallery space or our workshop space, whichever one you think is most appropriate for your needs. You get up to 3 days in it that you just request through me. And we work with you to figure out the dates that work for it. There we go. Really, the thing that we're most proud about in this program is our mentorship component. So we take a look at your application, everything that you do in the application process, your idea, and then we pair you with a mentor from our global pool of mentors. We have various artists, some are local, some are national, some are based all over the world, who have agreed to be mentors if there's an appropriate partnership for them. And you get 6 hours of contact time with your mentor over the course of 3 months. And that is sort of that contact time is sort of sculpted by you and the mentor based on what you think your needs are and how they can best support you. So for example, my mentee um, this round in the first cohort, we meet every month, and we meet in 1 hour chunks. So we have 1 hour where we sort of catch up. I catch up with him, like what he's been doing, what progress has been made, what he wants to talk about, things that he's working through. I go away from that conversation and over the next few days, sort of think through things, people, like things I can signpost them to other projects they might want to take a look at. And then he sends me some writing as well. And then we come back together and then we kind of review all of that. So that's how we've decided to do it. But all the different mentors and their mentees are sort of taken those 6 hours and sculpted them and however it makes sense. So there's no really prescribed way that you can go about doing that. A big part of the program for us is documentation. So we want to make sure that you're in some way documenting your process through the program. And we have a journaling workshop at the beginning of the program that I'll talk about in a minute that is there to support that process. And we know a lot of artists already have some kind of documentation practice. And so, it's more about leaning into that or stretching yourself or thinking about other ways that you can document your work. So the workshops that I mentioned, so there's 3 workshops over the course of the program. Some of them are delivered hybrid, some of them are more delivered in person. We try to be responsive to the cohort, and also to the facilitator to like which method is best for them. The workshops that we have lined up for the first cohort, this upcoming cohort, there we go, is, as I said, journaling. That's led by Shabina. Then we have She Blank, who's a Bradford-based artist who's going to be doing a sort of creative technology-esque workshop that she's calling Embracing the Chaos and Uncertainty of the Unknown. And then finally, Tanya Vital is going to be leading a workshop. We're playing around with a few different ideas of what that workshop could be, but it will probably be responsive to who ends up in the cohort. The end of the program, there's a public-facing sharing, and that sharing is really about you demonstrating the progress that you've made with the idea that you came in with. And that could look like anything. We leave it very open at the beginning, and about a month out from the sharing, we start working with you to pin down what it could look like. We told people to think about it as like a 10-minute thing, but because the program is medium agnostic, you don't have to be a performance artist. It could be an installation, it could be a writing. Someone in our cohort is going to be doing a reading of some short stories that they've been writing. My mentee is thinking about performing a vignette from the work that he's been working on. We've got somebody who's working on archival stuff. So there's a lot of different ways that sharing could look like. And it's really just about, and that's why the documentation component becomes so important. It's really just about sharing with us, sharing with people that you want to invite, sharing with the public. What have you been working on for the last 3 months? And that could be even that I worked on this idea for 3 months and now I hate it and I don't want to work on it anymore, which is also progress, but for us, it's really about the methodology, the approach, how you went through thinking through that, how you went through working through that. So I mentioned at the beginning the provocation. So the provocation is meant to kickstart your thinking and give the cohort a point of commonality. So what we saw, so the previous cohort's provocation was in the margins. And what we saw was a lot of people were really interpreting that however they wanted to. It's a question in the application. How does your idea connect to the provocation? And people had all sorts of different interpretations about it. We were really excited when we saw, some people had really literal interpretations, some people had very abstract and loose interpretations. All of that was really exciting for us to read. We just want to make sure that we understand where you're seeing the connection. That's really what that question is about. And then again, there are 6 artists selected per cohort. We want to make sure there's something kind of holding all of you together. And so with that, that's kind of part of the other reason why we have the provocation. So the provocation this round out is City of Wonder. The full write-up of the provocation is available on the application guidelines. I'm not going to read it here today. but it was written up by Shabina, and it is about Bradford. It's about, sort of looking at the wonder of Bradford and the prisms, a way that you can look for through Bradford in. And that is in preparation, as many of you know, Bradford 2025 is next year. So we really want to celebrate our city ahead of that because this first cohort runs from January through March, and your sharing is in April. So what about the application? So I'm going to share some key dates with you first. So the open call is open already. It opened on October 1st. This is our last information session. But like as I said, this is recorded. We'll be sharing it back out with you all. And if you are talking to a colleague or somebody else who wants to apply and missed the information session, just put them in touch with us and we will give them one of the recordings as they are available. The open call closes on October 31st, and then we'll be jurying, shortlisting, interviewing all through the month of November, and we'll be in touch between December 1st and December 10th, probably before then, to the finalists. And then the Untitled One sharing, which is taking place on December 11th, is when we'll be announcing publicly who the finalists are, but that they will obviously know before then. Excuse me. And then as if that's the end of the year, we won't be kicking off the program until January 13th. The workshop dates that we have confirmed so far are January 23rd, February 5th. I believe Tanya's workshop will be taking place the week of March 17th, but we are currently finalizing that with her. And then the sharing will be the week of April 7th. The sharing this time around, there's two sessions. There's an afternoon session and then an evening session. That's so that you can grab different audiences. This round out, it's on a Wednesday. It might be on a Wednesday again in April, but it's likely something that we will talk about with whoever gets selected, the cohort that gets selected, and then go from there. So the medium, this is not the medium of your idea or your artistry. As we said, it's medium agnostic. Last time we had, like I said, we've got all sorts of people in the cohort right now. We had applications from an even wider range of people and different mediums and things like that. We're not tied to any particular medium. We'll just make sure that we can provide you a mentor that really understands where you're working in. But this is about the medium of the application. So we are very happy to accept the answers to the application questions in a few different forms. The first is a 2-page A4 PDF that can be text, it can be images, it can be collage, it can be whatever. It fits on the 2-page A4 PDF. Or you can submit a 5-minute video, or you can submit a 5-minute audio. Whatever medium you choose to submit your answers in must clearly communicate your answers. So please have fun with it, be creative, but just make sure that in doing so, you've not been so creative that we can actually understand your responses to the application questions. So those questions are, speaking of the questions, what is your idea? In what way does it connect with the provocation? How might you explore it? What is your methodology and approach? And how will you use the 3 months to further your exploration? We also ask you to share one piece of work, ideally that was public facing but not required, that demonstrates your practice and process when thinking through a concept or idea. We also ask you to share 3 things you've seen or experienced in any medium that you've liked or enjoyed in relation to what your practice is or what you want it to be. And this is all so that we can get a good sense of who you are as an artist, what your process is, what your point of view is, what you want where you want to be exploring, where you want your practice to be, all of that. We also allow you to submit up to 3 additional links. So people use that for websites, for project work, for their social media, that just further support your application. That's not required. It is optional, those 3 extra links. So this round out, the submissions are all via email. So the application guidelines, which are on the Untitled application website, Those are it's a downloadable folder. So when you click on the application guidelines, it'll take you to a WeTransfer page that has a downloadable folder that has the application guidelines and the provocation. It also has both of those things as an audio, read by me. So I'm sorry for my accent in that audio. And in it, it has like the full explanation of what the application is and also the email address. So the theater email address, theater@bradford.ac.uk, that is where you should be emailing your submissions into. Um, and that was because previously we had used a Google form and realized some people had difficulty accessing that because of the file upload feature and things like that. So we're still experimenting as this is our second cohort. We're still experimenting with the best, most accessible way to allow people to submit their applications. So this round out, we're just accepting them via email. So the selection process, how do we select once we get the applications? So our main criteria, what we look for is clarity in your answers. We want to make sure we really understand what it is that you are wanting to explore with us. There is no age restriction. There is no expectation. You don't have to be early career, late career, mid career. This could be a departure from your previous practice. We just need to know a little bit like why. Um, it's really open because it's about exploring an idea. It's not about and we think that that is a part of our practice as artists that can be developed at any point throughout our career, throughout your career, my career as an artist, your career as an artist. So it's really open from that perspective. And we really dig into how you've answered the questions. So our jurying, so we jury with our team here. Um, some of our signed artists, some of our board members are all involved in the jurying. We then shortlist. Um, we have short 15-minute interviews or conversations with the shortlisted artists. And then from that, we make our final selection of 6 artists. The interview sounds very formal, but it really is just a conversation with Shabina, our artistic director. She asks you a little bit about your process, your idea, things like that. It's a very short conversation. It's used to get a better sense of you, but also to see, think through like your mentorship partner. Who in our mentor pool do we think would be a good fit for you? For capacity reasons, if your application does not reach the shortlisting phase, we are not able to provide feedback. However, if you do reach the shortlisting phase and you do have that conversation with Shabina and you are not selected, you will receive feedback as to why that was the case. There's no limit to how many Untitled programs you can apply to. This is an ongoing program. It runs every 3 months. So our next application period will open, I believe, in February of next year. So it is an ongoing program. The provocation changes every time. So if you go into the application guidelines and you read the provocation and you think to yourself, it's not what you want, it's not particularly interesting or whatever, we do have different provocations every time. So it could be next time. But yeah, I mean, obviously we hope you all apply this time. We really love to see your applications. So that's the program in a very fast nutshell.